to begin by acknowledging that we are the Mi'kmaq, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We also acknowledge that the people of African descent have been in Nova Scotia for over 400 years, and we honor and offer gratitude to those ancestors of African descent who came before us to this land. We'll move on to the agenda. Any additions or deletions of the agenda? Hearing none, can I get approval for the agenda, please? Seconder?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Declaration of any conflicts of interest for the agenda? None? No delegations tonight? I'll slow down a bit. Minutes of the previous meeting, July 7th, 2025. Any errors in those minutes?
Yep.
Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to take a moment to just clarify something from the last meeting. I know like I'm still a new counselor still, and I'm learning as I go. In the heat of the moment, some wording maybe came out stronger when I was looking back at it, and I just wanted to touch base on it. And I believe that I didn't mean anything by it if it did offend anybody. And I'm sorry, I was just speaking on a place of frustration, mostly reflecting on what I've heard from residents. It wasn't meant to place blame or to highlight any concerns. I appreciate if the minutes reflected that a little bit more clearly. That's just all I wanted to clarify. We're all human, so anything that comes out stronger for some other people, I just appreciate your understanding that it's not meant that way. Thank you.
Okay. Business arising, so we will approve those minutes as presented then. Business arising from the minutes, we have none. So we'll move on to the report of the CAO. Actually, before I start that, Tom, sorry. I'd like to welcome our new employee, Karen Morrell. She's the new administrative assistant receptionist for the town of Digby. Sorry, Karen.
No worries. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, Tom. Okay, you're on.
So, under the NSRAB matter 12061, the Planning Appeal Development Agreement, Timothy Peck and all at the Thomas Road, Digby. The hearing was held on July 14th to the 17th. I attended the hearing to give testimony. The hearing concluded shortly after noon on Thursday, July 17th. The board set the following date for final submissions, which shall be received by the board at 2 p.m. on each respective date. August 1st, the appellate submissions. August 20th, applicant and respondent submissions. September 2nd, filing of any repealed or reply to submissions. Then following that, the board has 60 days of the filing of any reply to render a decision. The decision in this matter will not be expected before November 2025. The NSRAB matter 11944, Fundy Restaurant Limited, appeal order to take action under fire inspection. The final submissions have been submitted to the board and is liable to be 60 days before a decision of the board is made. Under admin assistant receptionist, the mayor already introduced Karen. She was a successful candidate for the position, and today is her very first day. Private structures within rights-of-way, street right-of-ways, with the pending construction on the extensions of West Street and 3rd Avenue. There are some private structures that are encroaching on the street right-of-ways. that will need to be removed. Notice was given to the owners for the removal. The deputy CAO and I have met with the owners to review some concerns and answer the questions. Kings Transit Authority, NSRAB matter M12368, 2025 application to amend the motor carrier license P02825. A preliminary hearing via conference call was held on July 28th, 2025. The public hearing date has been set to be held at the Town Council Chambers in Digby on August 21st, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. The Times Lawyer will be preparing a statement, letter to the board on this matter. Next item is save the date, Thursday, August 14th, for an important in-person meeting on the provincial policing review. The Honorable Becky Drouin, Minister of Justice and Attorney General for Nova Scotia, and staff from the Department of Justice will join us for part of the day for a presentation and discussion. The meeting will take place at the 4 Points at Sheridan, Halifax from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. Registration will be required, and registration link and event details will follow early next week by email from the NSFM. Is there anybody at this point that I think council member that plans or maybe thinking about attending that justice meeting in Halifax? Okay.
I'll be attending.
Did you say yes, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Is it typical that one or two would go, or how do you?
Just register, man.
Just register.
As possible, because this is for a day, so it's just.
Well, I guess I'm interested in going also. August 14th.
Digby Fire Department Training Facility. The Digby Fire Department is seeking a location for a training facility. There have been several options looked at. Council approved the use of the site of the old fire hall at 169 First Avenue, bid number 30231179. The site could not be used as it was undersized to accommodate the training facility, and the application for development permit was denied. The fire department made application for development permit for the site located at 159 First Avenue, PID number 30253694. The application was reviewed by the development officer, and it appears that the site can accommodate the training facility. However, to issue a permit, the development officer requires the permission of the property owner, which in this case is the town of Digby. The development officer made a request to the committee of the whole, which was tabled until further information on the facility could be sought. The fire department issued the following public statement on their Facebook site, which I believe answers some of the concerns expressed at the committee of the whole meeting. The public statement, they stated clarifying the facts, DFD training facility. The Digby Fire Department would like to respond to some recent misinformation circulating on social media regarding our plans to build a firefighter training facility. Let us be clear, our ability to train properly is not a convenience, it's a necessity. Our members are called to respond to fires, rescues, motor vehicle collisions, and other high-risk emergencies. To do that safely and effectively, they need hands-on, realistic training. Until recently, fire departments in Nova Scotia relied heavily on centralized training resources to develop those critical skills. That option is no longer reliably available to us. Like many departments across the province, we need to find sustainable local solutions to ensure our members continue to receive the training they need and deserve. That's why the DFD has invested in 3 purpose-built training containers. They're funded entirely by our own volunteer members. These will be joined together to create a safe, controlled environment to support interior search, fire behavior, and rescue training. We are working closely with the town of Digby to identify a suitable location near our fire hall, keeping the facility efficient, accessible, and minimally disruptive to the community. Why we're addressing this now? Typically, we don't respond to online commentary, but in this case, we feel it's necessary not just because of the photos posted, but because of the tone and essence of the misinformation being spread. Some online comments have sensationalized what this facility will be, using exaggerated comparisons and imagery to stir concern. These kinds of posts do more than misinform. They erode trust in your fire department, and they diminish the effort our volunteers put in every day to keep this town safe. Let's set the record straight. The training center will not produce large or uncontrolled fires. Any live fire training will be strictly regulated and produce no more smoke than a regular home chimney. Many exercises use non-toxic simulation smoke with no fire at all. No hazardous materials like plastics or garbage will ever be burned. All activity will follow provincial and national standards of firefighter safety and environmental protection. What this is really about, the facility is about safety, readiness, and supporting our volunteers, your neighbors, friends, and family who show up when at least it matters most. It allows us to train locally, cost effectively, and safely without depending on distance and uncertain resources. We're proud of the steps we're taking, and we want to make sure the community hears the truth, not just the loudest voices on social media, because one day it might be your family on the other side of that door. And when our firefighters get there, they'll need every bit of training, every bit of preparation, and every second they spent learning how to save lives before it's too late. That's why this facility matters. Thank you for standing with us, Digby Fire Department. Well, in discussions with the Deputy Chief, Fire Chief on August 1st, he informed me that they would be putting the training facility on hold until probably fall. The Fire Association is currently looking at the possibility of obtaining provincial funding for a fire training facility to service all the departments in the association. If they are successful, it would be a larger facility and would not be located on the site currently being proposed. However, if they are not successful in getting funding this year, they would likely want to proceed with the training facility currently being proposed, but will reapply for provincial funding next year. As the development officer, I can confirm that the proposed site is zoned correctly and the site's size can accommodate what is currently being proposed. The development permit can be issued as of right and does not require rezoning nor a development agreement. The only hurdle is having the council permission as the owner. As the Chief Administrative Officer, I can confirm that the facility will be subject to all town bylaws and any issues can be resolved through bylaw enforcement or the RCMP. Basically, today, I think the mayor probably received a letter from Minister Orr concerning the firefighter school, and that they will, the province has walked away from supporting the firefighter school because of all the inefficiencies and, things that are going wrong there. They've done an in-depth study on it, and then it came back in such a bad state that, the province is no longer gonna support it financially. But they are looking at other options. So,
So with regards to that, I know we talked about waiting for the fire committee meeting to discuss that, so if not, we can maybe discuss it prior to it, the committee of the whole.
Yeah, I think it would probably make sense to do that, especially if there's a possibility that they might get funding for a larger facility than that.
Yeah.
And it may even make sense that we look at, if it doesn't happen this year, especially if funding commitments aren't made, maybe they look at a single story, like, training facility, and then if they find out that, they aren't gonna be moving somewhere else, it gives them access to at least limited training in the short run. I mean, even if it's a single container that they set up in the short run to be able to train in. But it is good to see the answers in there with respect to the amount of smoke produced, that's essentially the equivalent of a regular chimney, and that there won't be anything burnt in there that's toxic or hazardous material. I think that was listed before, although the size of the fire was more the concern, how much smoke it would produce. So to get clarity on that is definitely useful for everything, because that means it limits the potential effect on any neighbors, or at least that's my view on it.
okay. Sale of property on Queen Street, the agreements of purchase and sale with the two purchasing parties have been executed and the survey process for the subdivision has begun. Private road gifted to the town, a private road that contains town services and provides access to 7 residential properties has been gifted to the town by the owner. This is of advantage to the town as it will allow further subdivision of property and the issuance of development permits and the protection of our water and wastewater infrastructure. This road will be required to be named and to allow for accurate civic addressing. NASCAF has identified an issue with the civic numbers in that area as they are numbered from St. George Street and are out of sequence, causing issues for first responders. The process has taken a considerable amount of time to complete, and accepting the road was approved by the previous council. And I included in my report, for those that has a copy, the hatched area on the map that shows what the towns will be taking over.
So just an idea for a name, I don't know if it's gonna be a lane or an avenue, but, I know Lou and Francis, used to live up there at Wiles, so Lou Francis Lane or Wiles Avenue. Possibly Lou did a lot with the airport and building the airport for Digby, so might be a thought for a name down the road. Okay, that's your report. Any questions for Tom on his reports? Everything's clear? Good. All right, move on to mine. Had a concern with the hospital staffing for appointments. Follow up by calling the hospital with regards to ER being open for Lobster Bash, as this was a concern to council to make sure we asked for the festival weekends. Directed him to contact MLA Joe Lawson and site manager of the hospital. It was open for Lobster Bash, the hospital. Did the welcoming and the closing of the Lobster Bash Festival went on this time. It was really big and successful, which was good. July 5th to now, had a lot of calls about King's Transit, that's for sure. Ironically, I haven't heard from any businesses downtown with regards to the service, and only 5 residents in town that have talked about it. The others have been from the municipality. We had an ad hoc committee, so I emailed I have a list of those who I've called and had an interview with information morning on CBC. Joe Casey Humanitarian Award on July 10th. Everett Pine was the recipient of the award. Attended the hearing for Thomas Road Development July 14th to 17th. Wharf Rally, attended a EMO meeting where discussions and plans were made with all the EMO partners there. On July 25th, met with Carolyn Starr, who was presently doing a survey for the hospital foundation with regards to some concerns at the hospital and healthcare concerns. And also attended the bylaw and policy meeting, planning meeting, committee of the whole, water commission, Remo executive committee, and had a meeting with Councillor Rick Flick. That's pretty well for me. Anybody have any questions with the other stuff on there? Those are basically just little complaints from residents, which were solved pretty well quickly. If not, we'll move on to J1, the Marketing Levy Advisory Committee. Councillor Flick.
Okay. All right, the Marketing and Promotional Levy Advisory Committee met on June 30th, I believe. Anyway, the meeting was held on June 30th, and it was a special meeting called to deal with a couple of requests. One was a data request for $2,500, which had been overlooked in the previous request. And that was discussed and approved, and a note was made to inform data that it would be best to have special projects as a standalone request to avoid being overlooked amongst their other requests, their main requests. They be dealt with separately. Item 2 was the Scald Days request for special funding to be used as part of the 50th anniversary celebrations. The committee agreed to fund partially their request, and that's gone ahead as far as I know, correct, Tom? Yes. Okay. And it was decided at the next meeting a discussion will be held regarding a reporting framework for organizations receiving funding and to establish a cutoff dates for funding requests to avoid confusion. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Councillor Flick? If not, we'll move on to J2, Western Regional Library Report for Councillor McCormick.
I guess the main thing that I'll take from, that I took from the library meeting that we had, lots of participation, every area and region was represented, but they have a concern that we share amongst some of our other committees and groups that are funded by the province. Their funding agreement ran out as of the end of March. As of right now, there are no increases that are being considered, and this was, I believe, a 3-year funding agreement that's come to an end. They've had expenses go up year over year, so their funding's been flat for 3 years and will continue to be that way. And over the last 3+ years, expenses have increased not insignificantly. And unfortunately, they've got to a point where they're going to have to start dipping into the reserves that they have to be able to maintain the services they provide. And where the Western Regional Library covers a relatively large area, despite the fact that they have relatively healthy reserves, it's not going to be able to continue to support them for too long of a time. And they gave us a kind of a worst case scenario. There's another regional library board in the province that had relatively healthy reserves as well, and they ran into cost overruns a little bit sooner than we did. And the province said, look, just use your reserves, we'll get it resolved before you're out, before you have no funding left. And they're facing some relatively severe cutbacks in service this year because they did not get a new agreement with the province. So that would be the big concern that I'd say we've got with the Western County Regional Library Charitable Association, is that right now they can probably maintain servicing, but there is a chance within the fall they'll have to have cutbacks. And if there's not a new agreement with the province next year for certain, there will be cutbacks to the service that they provide. And the library has gone well beyond just servicing by, having books available. They have a lot of programming, they have a lot of resources that are available for folks, especially those people that might not have those resources at home and were at risk of losing those. And I believe the CAO received an email a few weeks back from them indicating that, that's a possibility, and Digby's going to be one of the libraries that's looked at for, all of them are going to be looked at, but Digby specifically is going to be looked at for potential cutbacks in servicing. So hopefully we can move forward and get the province on board with revisiting their agreements with the libraries. And I guess this is separate from the meeting, but I believe there is a request for a letter of support to go off to the province. So we can always bring that up, actually we'll add that for committee of the whole and bring that up so that we can get that off to them to indicate that we'd like to support them in getting a new agreement with the province.
Any other questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Just one, Councilor McCormick, are there any numbers for usage for our library? You can share with me?
I believe we have numbers for essentially all the libraries, so I'll see if I can get those from Aaron, and that way we can pass them along.
All right, anyone else, questions for Councilman Carr? If not, we will move on to correspondence. No correspondence, no notice of motion. Move into new business, which is the town of Digby operating budget resolutions 2025-2026. So, budget resolutions 25-26, estimate revenues and expenditures. Motion for that, or revenues $5,764,979, and of course the balanced budget, the expenditures $5,764,979. A motion for that. The council accepts the following estimates.
Make that motion.
Motion by the Deputy Mayor, seconder.
I'll second that.
Second, Councilman McCormick. Any questions? Questions? All in favor, raise a hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. General tax rates. Someone read that.
I'll move, whereas total estimated expenditures for the fiscal period are $5,764,979, and whereas total estimated revenues other than taxes to be levied are $1,211,269, and whereas the balance of the revenues required, $4,553,710, must be rated, therefore be it resolved that for the town of Digby for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, the general tax rates are as follows. Residential/resource, $1.95 per $100 of assessment. Commercial, $4.28 per $100 of assessment. And that these taxes are due and payable on taxes to be billed by way of interim tax bill issued in April, due May 31st, 2025, and final tax bill issued in September, due October 31st, 2025, with interest to be charged on all final tax accounts outstanding on interest on overdue amounts to be charged at a rate of 19% per annum.
We have a seconder.
Second.
Second, Deputy Mayor. Any questions? Yes, Councilor Weir.
This is the discussion after, Chair, after the secondary motion, or is it discussion now?
We've had the seconder. Oh, seconder?
Yeah.
Seconder, yeah. Discussion now, yeah.
I'd just like to note again that I'm voting no on this budget, and you guys know why. I said it many times, but I just want to make sure everybody explain again why, and what I said last meeting is we just lost the public transit, a service many residents relied on for work, medical appointments, basically mobility. To remove the vital service and then raise taxes, in my opinion, is wrong at this time. We're still carrying the burden from the Pines, a tax break at the very beginning, a decision that continues to drain us financially, and frankly, it's putting us in debt every year. On top of that, our CMP costs are up almost $100,000 this year. And we need to start demanding that the province support before it's too late. Meanwhile, inflation, tariffs, the rising everyday expenses hitting us, right? This is not a time to add more financial pressure to people, including myself. I'd like to add to that. We have options, we have reserves, we talked about those. We have surplus on properties. Our, I believe, like we talked about, our information bureau at the ferry could be looked at. Salvation Army place up by the school, which would give us a fair amount of money. Plus, we got to look at, we have over 200 housing units being built in the future, hopefully here, and it seems to be continuing, so it's good. So we're going to grow. We're going to have a tax base here. We just need to manage short term responsibly. And I believe, like I talked to everybody, that we must revisit the dark cost sharing agreement. I mean, Dark's price is almost, gone up together, combining $150,000 almost. I mean, more than, the town currently pays 50-50 with the municipality, but they have 4 times the population we have. It doesn't make any sense to me. I would really like to see if we could look at that a little bit more. And I mean, at the end of the day, we want people to stay in Digby, right? We want to raise families here. We want to invest in businesses. But raising taxes right now is risky driving people away, especially when we're already among the highest taxed towns in Nova Scotia. I know our assessments are different, but it still puts us in that bracket. I mean, I cannot support the tax hike right now under these conditions, but I will absolutely respect council's final decision. Just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Valid points. Anybody else? Questions? Yes, go ahead, Deputy.
Just to echo Shane, those are all points that we have talked about. It's not just a decision we've arrived at today. It's all those. It's been a long process.
I mean, I'll add that, if you look at the library funding, senior safety funding, there are other things as well that we're eating more and more of the cost on, that we're not getting an increased contribution from the province on as well. And I do agree that it is important that we go back on these, and we're going to have to make sure we're using our voices together to say that you can't keep cutting what comes to the towns and municipalities and have us have an increased share of the bill again and again and again, because unfortunately, I believe, if I heard this correctly, when the Director of Finance was going over the numbers for the towns in the province, we're not the only one who's looking at a potential increase that we're looking at here to be able to have our revenue match our expenditure. And that's even with cuts and reductions in some of the services that places are offering, because the share of taxation, or the share of the tax burden that's falling on towns is growing faster than what the province's share of cost sharing is. So it does put us and the citizens of the town in a unfortunate spot. But one point to make on that is the province is allowed, if they choose to, run a deficit, and we are not. We are legally required by their restrictions for us to have a balanced budget at every year. So that's why, unfortunately, we're looking at a tax increase where they're not, because, they're allowed to do what they wish, and we cannot.
Yep, exactly. And it's hard to compare with the municipalities as well. I mean, Public Works Department, they don't have on basically roads and sewer. We need a lot of work done on roads and things, and we want good roads and fire hydrants and like that. We have to, unfortunately, we have to put the rates up a little bit for sure. Valid point as well, Councillor Weir mentioned about the fines. It's almost $300,000 a year we lost in the fines. And I believe we are sending a letter up to the MLA to try to get some compensation for that as well. Recreation is kind of a grandfather thing. When when they built it. Unfortunately, we were 50-50 with the capital at that time, and, you know, maybe digging in the programs a little bit, we could save a little bit there, but, recreation is very important, not only for the residents and kids for exercise, but mentally as well, so it's a very, critical part of our community, so I hate to lose anything at recreation, that's for sure. And the fire service is quite a expense as well. RCMP, we have no control over the RCMP. We pay for 5 officers and cost share the staff sergeant as well as the facility over there. And actually, we're pretty fortunate with the contract we have right now because with Wharf Rally, with all the officers we have, it doesn't cost us any extra money for those officers. If anything happens, heaven forbid, a murder or anything, we have all those services available to us, whereas if you don't have a contract with the RCMP, you pay for that. So like I say, we're pretty fortunate that way, but we are 1 square mile, and we need people. It's that simple. We need the apartments to go through, we need places for people to live. The business community should grow if we can get some more people moving into town. So it is a nice little town, and you know, when the power's off, we got water. So that's what I tell everybody at the municipality. When the power's off, we have water. So, and we have streetlights. So, anyway, anyone else have anything to share with the budget or any concerns?
You touched on a lot of what I was going to say, actually, Mr. Mayor. But
Sorry.
I think one other important point is talking about water. We're in the middle of a drought in this province right now. And the Water Commission, as part of the Water Commission, we went on a tour of our wells. And we are blessed to have the water system we do in this town. And we have capacity to actually survive a drought. We actually, I don't know if we're still doing it now. I know that Annapolis has now got a limited water usage on. But it wasn't very long ago we were supplying Annapolis with water because they were having trouble.
Yeah.
So those services cost money, but when no one thinks about being able to turn the tap on and be able to drink the water, no matter what's happening in the world. I mean, those are really important things, and no one likes to raise taxes, but the bills have to be paid. And as Councilor McCormick said, we can't run a deficit.
No, we are a small business, that's for sure. All right, so we've had a mover and a seconder. I'm going to ask the question. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. And opposed?
That's me. Nay.
Okay, move on to solid waste.
The go-to fire rate.
Fire, sorry, yeah.
I'll move that whereas council is authorized under section 80 of the Municipal Government Act to levy a rate on the value of all accessible property assessment in the area served by a water system in the town as defined by the council by policy in order to recover that part of the cost of the water system that is attributable to fire protection. And whereas the cost of fire protection, water supply and hydrants has historically been covered in the general tax rate of non-exempt residential, resource and commercial taxable assessment, and whereas the provision of fire protection, water supply and hydrants is beneficial to all accessible property assessment within the town of Digby, serviced by Digby Water Commission, the council wishes to levy a rate over all accessible property assessment. Therefore, be it resolved that it shall be the policy of the council of the town of Digby as of April 1st, 2019 to separate the fire protection expenditures, water supply and hydrants from the estimated expenditures to be covered by general rate of non-exempt residential, resource and commercial taxable assessment, and apply a fire protection rate to cover the estimated fire protection, water and hydrant expenditures to all accessible property assessment in the area served by the Digby Water Commission and in the town. And further be it resolved that the total estimated fire protection, water and hydrant expenditures for the 25-26 fiscal year of $219,146 be covered by a fire protection rate applied to all accessible property assessment serviced by the Digby Water Commission, and that the fire protection rate for the 25-26 fiscal year be set at 14 cents per $100 of assessment, and be applied on the interim tax bill issued in April, due May 31st, 2025, and final tax bill in September are due and payable by October 31st, 2025, with interest on overdue amounts to be charged at a rate of 19% per annum.
Do I have a second?
I should read the whole thing, too.
The other reading, yeah, you did. We have a seconder on the
Second it.
second, Councilor Foot. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Councilor McCormick. Great.
Thanks.
Whereas Council has included in its estimates for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026, the amount of $438,163 to be expended for the purpose of solid waste management, a purpose for which the town may expend funds, and whereas the approximately 1,184 dwelling units within the boundaries of the town of Digby, and whereas the council may, under paragraph 75, subsection 4B of the Municipal Government Act, in lieu of levying an area rate, levy a uniform charge from each property assessment in the area. Therefore, be it resolved that the uniform charge of $370 be levied for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2026 on each dwelling unit within the boundaries of the town of Digby, and that these uniform charges are applied to the intermittent tax bill issued in April due May 31st, 2025, and the final tax bill in September are due and payable October 31st, 2025, with interest on overdue amounts to be charged at a rate of 19% per annum.
I have a seconder.
Second.
Second, Councilor McCormick. Any questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Sanitary and sewer rates.
Whereas council is authorized by the town of Digby sewer charge bylaw to set rates for sewer services, therefore be resolved that the sewer surcharge shall be $6.17 per 1,000 gallons of water consumed, and residential or commercial users shall pay less than 1 million gallons annually, 100% of the sewer surcharge service, and more than 1 million gallons annually, 50% of the sewer service charge, based on the annual water consumption of the previous year, and industrial premises users shall pay less than 1 million gallons annually of the sewer service charge, or more than 1 million gallons shall pay 10% of the sewer service charge. On more than 10 million gallons shall pay 5% of the sewer service charge based on the annual water consumption of the previous year, and that the sewer service charge shall be applied to the water utilities bi-monthly bill. All bills are due and payable under the same regulations as the water utility bill.
Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Seconder, Councilor McCormick. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And taxes, certificate fee.
Move that whereas council is authorized to set a fee for a tax certificate pursuant to section 132.2 of the Municipal Government Act, therefore be it resolved, the tax certificate fee shall be $40 per tax certificate.
Do I have a seconder? Seconded. Seconder, Councilor Foot. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. That concludes our meeting for this evening. We have a motion to go into camera. Thank you very much. I can get a motion to go into camera. Someone's seconder. Second. Amy. Moving the water. All in favor?
Aye. Motion for adjournment.
Second. Aye. Let's go.